Roz! Oh my
What's
God.
up, Nat? What's going on?
Thank you so much, as always, for joining me on WNBA Mondays. Glad to have you. Roz, yesterday, was it yesterday or was it Saturday? Okay. So Saturday night, the Fever and the Chicago Sky were playing their second matchup of the season. They have 5 this year, actually. And so we have 3 more. Okay. But they played against one another, and I think many were going into that thinking maybe this game would look different than the first one because it was going to be without Caitlin Clark. And so maybe,
Did you think that?
Some thought that.
Okay. Yep.
But, just maybe it might give, Chicago Sky a little bit more of a chance. They were coming in on a 2-game win streak.
Right.
So, but very quickly, things fell apart in that game. First of all, there was a huge injury to Courtney Vanderloot, who we will talk about later. But unfortunately, she suffered a season-ending injury. And so they just had to deal with losing their point guard, in the game early, which is hard enough to overcome. But, the Fever were playing their 4th game without Caitlin Clark. And at first it started off sort of rough. They lost the first 2, and then they looked much better in the final 2. And they put a beat down on the Chicago Sky again. It didn't really look that much different than the first game. And so I think it's an impressive win for them, and potentially with their franchise star coming back. But I thought it was a great win for them. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, I think for the Fever, sometimes things happen and it ends up being exactly what you need. You hear that Caitlin Clark goes down and you're like, oh my God, no, But it also gave the team some time alone to figure out, and sometimes that's not pretty, right? There could be it's usually ugly before it gets better, but figure out what their roles are together and what all of them can do. And then also having no Sophie Cunningham. Even coach wasn't there. Stephanie White had a personal issue. So there was quite a bit for the Indiana Fever to overcome, but I think a big bright spot for them was bringing in Aari McDonald. And it really is just because they literally just needed another ball handler and a spark. She came off the bench and was a spark.
Yes.
She was an agent of pace. She's so fast. She got them in transition. Her defense created offense. She got a number of steals. She took charges. Yes. She changed the state of the game, and I feel like she was also a threat on the offensive end too. So it wasn't just defense. It was she could knock down a 3 on a penetrate and kick out. She was really all the things that I think Indiana needed to take some pressure off of themselves. So I thought she was a bright spot in those 2 wins.
Yeah, she really helped them, and I'm glad that you brought up both ends of the floor, because I think sometimes people forget how pesky Sophie Cunningham can be on defense.
Oh, yes.
And so and it's an important point because we keep talking about Caitlin being out, but they also are missing Sophie, who is a really important piece of their roster. So I think Aari really came in, and she's been wonderful, and I think they probably need to try to figure out a way to keep her even when Caitlin Clark does return.
Yeah, because they've got some roster balancing type issues they'd have to figure out, whether it's Caitlin or Sophie coming back. So it's tough, right? And these are tough decisions that might need to be made. But Aari McDonald certainly made her case. If it's not for this team, it will be for another. Trust me, the rest of the W saw her perform at this high level. A 3-and-D point guard with pace, come on now. And she was knocking down that shot. So, but the other thing that I saw that was really big for Indiana, they were moving the ball.
Yeah.
Okay, the assists were up. They had 21 assists on 30 made field goals versus the Mystics, and 20 assists on 27 made field goals against the Sky. So almost all of their shots are, the majority of them, someone's helping another teammate get that shot and making it easier for the next one. And I think things that were predicted. I spoke with Stephanie White, and she said she wanted to have assists and facilitating coming out of Aaliyah Boston. And I think Aaliyah Boston has been that. The only time she's struggled is when she's been in foul trouble, but she is more than just pick and roll or scoring near the rim. She's very cerebral.
Yes.
And she's a very nice passing post, and I think she has buoyed the team. Kelsey Mitchell in the 2 wins. shot the ball much more efficiently.
Yes.
And I think actually Aari McDonald helps to take some of that pressure off of her.
Yep.
DeWanna Bonner in these games without Caitlin Clark has seemed more engaged, is taking more shots. Hasn't been perfect, but it's better than her taking 2 shots on 12% shooting. So that's going to be just a continued evolution and growth throughout the season, because we already know who DeWanna Bonner is.
Yep.
But if I came here today and I had one point to make, if there was one thing I have to say about the Indiana Fever, is that I have so much respect and love what Lexi Hull brings to the court.
Yeah.
Lexi Hull is their X factor, and X factor is an odd thing to say about someone who you count on every single game to bring you something, to deliver production. She's not a superstar, but boy, is she a star in her role.
Yeah, she impacts the game a lot.
And speaking of impact, against the Mystics, she led the team plus 19. Against the Sky, she was plus 28.
Yeah, she's been huge.
Like, she's just good things are happening. For people who are like, but what does that mean? What that plus minus means is that good things are happening when she's on the court.
Yes.
And she's just working out there. I think young people should watch and just see what hard work paying off looks like. She's working on defense. She's keeping somebody in front. She's in a passing lane. She's crashing the glass. She's on the floor. She's sacrificing her body. Offensively, she runs her lane every single time. The conditioning level on her is so elite. And then she's spacing up around the three-point line. You know, she's just working on both ends. And it really takes a mindset of selflessness to be able to do that.
It does. You know, before the Fever had to experience this time without Caitlin, I remember looking at their schedule and saying, okay, because it was announced that it would be at least 2 weeks before she would even be reevaluated. And so I looked at that schedule.
When I saw that, I was really down, because teams, when they say it's at least X time until the revaluation, you might as well just add another 2 to 4 weeks on, because that's just like keeping fans hopeful.
I hear you. Well,
nobody wants to hear Caitlin Clark is out for 2 months, for 8 weeks. Nobody wants to hear that.
Well, I think this is why the Aari McDonald pickup was so huge, though, because like when I looked at their schedule for those first 2 weeks, it was only going to be 4 games, and I said, these are winnable games. I'm not saying that they will win all of them, but they were winnable games. I said the worst case scenario would be for them to go 2-2, but that's still that's the worst, and they could go higher than that. And they went 2-2 so far, right? And so, but I think they found something playing with Aari, and you broke down like how everybody was contributing, how DeWanna was more engaged. I think learning how to play with Caitlin Clark is only going to help this team when she comes back, and I agree. Especially, so one, they don't have to rush her back, hopefully, but two, you know, because she often plays like a lot of minutes, and so especially coming off of injury, if you want to manage that, you know, you potentially have now, you know, Aari coming off the bench. So I think these are positive things. Caitlin Clark did speak over the weekend, and she said, you know, she said the same thing. She's feeling pretty good. She's going to be reevaluated. So we'll see. There's really, at least the last time I've checked, we don't have word yet if she's going to play in their next game. But I just feel like pressure is probably now taken off since they've played so much better these last 2 games with the addition of Aari McDonald.
Yeah, that's a real thing. Like, you know, your team handling your business, and it takes pressure of you to have to rush back as much. But in general, my overall mindset with Caitlin Clark would be, you must do whatever is best for this generational asset. Like, if the team lost all 4 of the games, I wouldn't have rushed Caitlin back. Because it's not about just this season. It's not about, you know, this first half of the season before All-Star break. It's you're talking about a player you're building your entire franchise around for the next decade. So I'd be really careful with her body and how you're ramping her back up in general.
It's her first injury, missing
in her whole career.
Yeah, so it's pretty huge. It's significant. Contrary to what some may believe, the world didn't end because she didn't play. We saw in those first 2 games how much they were missing her.
Yeah.
And we already know what she means to the team, but it was on full display. Yeah. So, you know, they have title hopes this season.
Yeah.
We all talked about them being a team that could potentially contend. So you do want to get it right with this injury, so that when she comes back, she can be her full self. And, you know, this is a good start to that. So I'm sure Indiana fans, everyone, the WNBA world, everyone's waiting for Caitlin to come back. But until then, the Fever, good job. Like, I mean, I think they showed a lot of promise, and obviously, you know, they may face some challenges with tougher competition, but I think this is a good start for them in terms of they lost 2, they won 2, and now they have a little momentum.
Yeah, and I've said this from the beginning of the season, and it's not even all my words. This is me parroting what we heard from Stephanie White when I spoke with her. The Fever they're going to be as serious as their defense is. And so, you know, in those first 2 losses without Caitlin, those were not great defensive efforts. Those were not great rebounding efforts. And, you know, when you're not going to defend, and if you're not going to secure the defensive rebound, what that means is you don't have a chance to get stops or a rebound and run and play with pace. So you're often going up against set defenses, and that's even harder to handle without your star point guard there to help you through a half-court set.
Yes.
So it was just a bunch of things that compounded and was made a little bit easier with the arrival, too, of Aari McDonald.
Yeah. So I don't know who's coming back first, Sophie or Caitlin, but they will be welcome additions when they come back. Until then, you know, we'll have to see. But while things are looking up for the Fever, things are not looking so great for the Chicago Sky. Sloot, man, Courtney Vanderloot tore her ACL, and season-ending injury for her, Roz, when she was coming back to Chicago. Like, this was really important to her to come back to this franchise. She's already won a championship with them. She wanted to help contribute towards developing their younger squad, and so for this to happen, she just became their highest scorer in franchise history, you know, passing her wife. So this is a devastating loss for the Chicago Sky. She is their starting point guard. What's next for the Sky? Yeah,
I mean, first I just have to, from a human capacity, and also having been really close in covering her last season with the Liberty, I first wonder just what's next for Sloot. You know, she's 36. Yeah. You know, her and her wife welcomed a baby recently. She also last year overcame a lot of personal strife with her passing of her mother. Sometimes, you know, she might be looking for a sign. Like, you know, she now holds the records in Chicago for games played, points, assists, steals. You know, it's a lot to overcome at this point in her career. Not to say it can't, but this was more supposed to be like a homecoming, you know? So that is unfortunate, and the Sky lose an excellent leader. In particular, they lose a level of competitiveness that I think the entire team needs a culture building on. You lose production, 10.5 points, 5 assists, 1.5 steals, 3 rebounds. And when I think of like what could be next to fill that in, you know, it's going to be by committee, but like, does Hailey Van Lith get more time? Does Aari McDonald find her way there? You know, you think about players who aren't in the league, like a Kennedy Carter or a Deja Kelly, and you just think
Grace Berger's out there too.
Right, you know, but Chicago's issues don't lie with any one player.
No.
So I think that's the first and foremost thing to say. There's a lot of growth that has to happen for this entire team together, collectively and individually. But the loss against the Fever was the most catastrophic loss you could probably have.
Yeah.
Like, literally, it was crazy. They lost by 27.
Yeah.
There was no Caitlin, no Sophie, no Coach White. They did it in front of United Center. It was national, right? Like, everybody had to see it happen, too.
Yeah.
And then Sloot goes down with a season-ending injury. I don't know if that game could have gone worse. No player scored in double digits. Like, it was so, they had more turnovers than field goals made. 19 turnovers over 18 made field goals.
Have you gone through something like that before, like losing like a really key player, like, and then having to rebound in game?
So first I'll just say, when it rains it pours, usually in life, like, so, you know, but certainly I've seen important injuries happen in a game, and that can go either way. Like, it can suck the energy out of your team, or the team rally cries. You know, all of a sudden you channel that energy and emotion into something very useful. One of my concerns about Sloot being out is, like, how long is she away from the team? Is she able to be around the team as she, you know, navigates what's next for her? they need her voice and leadership in that locker room. She's communicating lessons that she knows, like what it takes to win and things like that.
Well, it is devastating, and Sloot, we are wishing you a full recovery. It's such a big loss to the game, obviously, and to the Chicago Sky, and she's so beloved in Chicago. So we're wishing you the fullest recovery, hoping your spirits are well. But the Chicago Sky have a lot of questions that they need to answer, and hopefully in due time we'll find out some of the answers to those questions. Roz, thank you again for joining me today on the WNBA on NBC. You guys, make sure you go subscribe to our new YouTube channel, WNBA on NBC. That's where we're coming from you now. I know you used to watch us on the main NBC Sports channel, but we are dedicated to the W over here. And so if you want to get all things WNBA, go ahead and subscribe to this channel right now. We appreciate you tuning in. Until next time.